Hey guys. Okay, so I have on the same outfit because I just filmed this. I'm gonna film this video back to back. So I didn't want my video to be too long. So I am going to kind of pick up where we left off. So I'm going to reread the question that was posted to me in my comment section on the video Registered Dietitian to Registered Nurse, My Story Nursing Blog. So this was a comment and a question, so I'm going to reread it again and then answer the questions. So thank you for this. I've been going back and forth between staying in my unfulfilling career and going to nursing school for a while. This definitely pushes me in the right direction. I would love to hear your thoughts on an accelerated BSN versus an associate's RN. Do you have any intention of going back to school to become a nurse practitioner? If yes, would you have gone for an accelerated BSN instead? How do the schedules work? Opportunities differ between RN and RD. And you know what, Cass? Now that I reread that, I probably should have kept it all in the same video. But like I said, I didn't want to go too long. But so we'll pick up. I already answered the accelerated BSN versus an associate's RN. Do you have any intention of going back to school to become a nurse practitioner? So I think that is a great question. And matter of fact, because I told y'all I went to a funeral, I was just talking to somebody at the funeral about this. So kind of, and you know what, when I was working in the ICU, somebody said, once you get to the ICU, you either, because to me, like, and other people may feel differently. So if you're a nurse and you're watching this video, chime in on what you think. But I kind of feel like the ICU is like where people like dream of being, where they want to be, where like the end all be all kind of in like the nurse, the RN world. Like there's not really anywhere else I really wanted to go after the ICU, like, because I started in med surg and then I got down to the ICU, so as a registered nurse. But then it's like, once you get to the ICU, it's like, okay, am I going to stay here? Am I going to go to, or am I going to be a nurse practitioner? Or am I going to be a CRNA, a certified registered nurse anesthetist? So a lot of people that I worked with ended up going the nurse practitioner route, because it's like, even though like that's the end all be all in my mind, like where I wanted to end, because I never thought I'd be there. So it's like, well, I'm here now. You do get burnt out. Like you get burnt out on the 12-hour shifts. You do the pay. There's not really, I'm trying to see how to word this. So with the pay, you're not really going to go up very much. And just being transparent. So I started at $19.10. That was the starting rate for a registered nurse when I started at Baptist. Then, but I started at $20.35 because I was an hour, because I worked in a doctor's office for years before nursing school. So they bumped me up a little bit on there. And so when I left 3 years later, I was at $25.25 an hour. Now, they do have little incentives for if you pick up days at the hospital that I worked at. Like, if you picked up an extra day outside of your 3, then they would pay you $32 an hour. They called it Job 2. They would pay you $32 an hour, and that would be your extra day. And then we got to a point where we were so short-staffed that they ended up doing critical pay. And so critical pay was an extra $15 an hour. So you were making... no, it was 30. No, it was 32. So you were making 32, 15, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 4. So you were making 47 an hour. So as you can see, I made more money. Like I started at 19, I started at 20 and I ended at 25, but that was over the course of 3 years. And a lot of people don't really want to work extra shifts outside of their 3 because the 3 are so exhausting. So that's what I mean by you really are kind of stuck at the same salary for a while, unless you work a lot of extra overtime. So of course, as you know, CRNAs, they make six figures coming right out of school. So a lot of people want to go into that because, and they don't work as much as we do. Like the CRNAs that worked at our hospital, they only worked 8-hour shifts, and they're like overtime was like a 12-hour shift. So they didn't have to work as hard. And anybody that knows anything about a CRNA, even though there's a lot of liability with the job, once you become proficient, in my mind, like it's a little bit more cushier. You don't have to work as hard, in my mind. Now, CRNA may say something different, but when I shadowed and when I've seen them in action, that's just kind of the vibe I get. And a lot of people would rather do that than be in the ICU, where you're turning, you're lifting, you're pushing, you're pulling, you're getting spit on, you're getting talked bad to the doctors. It seems like with CRNA too, you have a little bit more autonomy, which is the same with nurse practitioner. I feel like the same way. A lot of nurse practitioners now are making six figures. They don't have to be with the same patient for 12 hours. You know, it's a little bit more better it's a little bit better working conditions. So, but the question specifically, let me stick with the question, was, do you have any intention of going back to school to become a nurse practitioner? So my point in kind of diverting from that, from diverting and going that direction, was just to say that that's the thought of a lot of people that are nurses. They want better for themselves. So they want a little bit more flexibility. They want more money. They want better hours. So they do a lot end up going into the nurse practitioner route, and those that work in the ICU, they end up going the CRNA route as well. Now, I thought about it. I thought about it a lot, actually. And my best friend, Jared, which, shout out to Jared if he ever watches my videos, he would always be on me. He would always be on me about going to CRNA or doing nurse practitioner. He would always be on me. Because he wanted to do CRNA real bad, but now he's actually in the nurse practitioner program. But what kind of turned me off about the nurse practitioner program was, one, it was more school, because I've already said all the education that I have, and then to finally make it out of a nursing school, and then to do more school, even though nurse practitioner is only 2 years, if you can like go all the way through successfully, the way they have outlined the program, even though it was only 2 years, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to be bothered. I don't know if I want to do this. And then I think you at some point may or may not be able to work because you have to do your clinicals, and that's during the week, and you have to have a certain amount of clinical hours. And then I think it was like $50,000. Well, somebody in my unit, in the ICU that I worked in, their nurse practitioner program ended up being $50,000. And on top of that, they could not find a job. Like after she graduated, like she couldn't find a job. And a lot of people have said, and I've read this too, that nurse practitioner is flooded. And I think that a lot of that is that registered nurses are burnt out. They're tired of working in the hospital. They want more money. They want more flexibility. They want they want better working conditions. And so they're applying to nurse practitioner school. They're getting out, but they're having a hard time finding a job. So I did think about it. I thought about both routes. I thought about nurse practitioner and I thought about CRNA. And I will say this, I left the hospital in March of 2020. I went on a travel assignment, and that was my last. Oh, no. Well, I went back for PRN work, but after my travel assignment in California in March 2020, I became a school nurse in May 2020. Now, I didn't actually start. I got the job in May 2020. Didn't start working until August 2020. And then I did some, like on the weekends, I would do some PRN work at the hospital. So I became a full-time school nurse. And so in my mind, and I didn't even really think about this until my supervisor said this, at my school nurse job, my supervisor said this, but we're basically a walk-in clinic. So, and at first I was like, when I started working as a school nurse, I was like, you know what? I really kind of actually like assessing and people telling me what's wrong with them, and I try to like get to the bottom of it, find out what's going on with them. Like I actually really like that. And so I started researching, going back to school, trying to see scholarships. And the way our school, because I'm a high school school nurse, and so the way our school was set up, like, it's almost like a doctor's office. So I was talking, and in some of our other schools, they have like a school-based health clinic where like a nurse practitioner actually works in the school and sees patients, and so it's obviously a better situation than having a nurse, just a regular nurse, because this nurse practitioner can prescribe medicine, they can draw labs, like they can just do so much more than just a regular nurse. So I was really, like, I talked to my supervisor about it. Like, I was really, like, on board to do it. But then as more time went on, I was like, I don't like doing this. You know, I don't know what changed. I don't know if it was just like I just got burnt out with COVID and some of the other things with being a school nurse. Because, you know, people think school nurses don't do anything, including my mother, but we actually do, and especially this year with COVID. But I was like, I don't really like being a walk-in clinic. Like, I just kind of fell out of love with it. So I was like, I don't really want to do nurse practitioner anymore, because I know that this is what I would be doing as a nurse practitioner. Somebody will walk in, even if I was in a walk-in clinic, if I was in a regular clinic, somebody walks in, they tell me what's going on, and I have to do all this stuff. I was like, I just don't want to do that anymore. And actually, what I really found out that I really like to do is educate. And I know, and really probably more so with my high schoolers, with my students, educate them about healthy eating, about healthy sexual practices, even though I'm an advocate of waiting for marriage, but you know, that's not the reality for everyone. So to me, educating them on basic principles, especially being a predominantly Black and brown school, that's what, and even with CPR, like that's kind of what I found that I would really prefer to do rather than be a walk-in clinic nurse. Now, of course, I have to do it because that's my job, and I have to do that, but that made me realize, I was like, no, I don't think I really want to be a nurse practitioner anymore. And I don't need a nurse practitioner degree to educate. So yes, I thought about it. I really, really thought about it. Like, I was seriously looking at some programs and was going to enroll. But then, like I said, I just kind of, it's like a light, like the Lord just really spoke to me about that, and the light switch went off, and I was like, I'm not going to do nurse practitioner. Like, I'm not going to do it. Now, something may change down the road, and especially if somebody is able to pay for it, and, you know, even if my circumstances change where I get married and my husband is like, you know, you can go to school full time if you want, but when I get married, not if I get married. But as of right now, I have no plans of going back to school for my nurse practitioner. And even now, I'm kind of on the fence about going and completing my BSN, because like I said in the previous video, when I was working at Baptist, they paid for 7 of my classes, or 7 hours. It's either 7 of my classes or 7 hours. And now I have like 11 hours left, or 11 classes. I always get it confused. But even with that, I'm like, I don't even know if I want to go back and do that, because I really want to educate. I just really want to educate with my students working in a high school. And then really even, cause I'm going to do this. I'm starting my own business, and I'm going to educate people on nutrition. Having a nutrition counseling business. So I'm like, I don't need a BSN to do that. Like, nobody cares. Like, once a lot of people hear nurse, they're not interested if I have an associate's, if I have a bachelor's. And to me, honestly, bachelor's is just, is more like teaching, you know, like, leadership. It's not like nursing practicum per curriculum. It's more, to me, like leadership component, to put you in the position to be executive, to be like a supervisor, a leader. And I'm like, I don't necessarily want to do that. So yes, so that's my answer to that question. Let's see if I can answer this one with that one. So, and honestly, so the next question was, if yes, would you have gone for an accelerated BSN instead? I would have done an accelerated BSN from the get-go if I would have been accepted. So definitely, if you have a degree, even if you talk to the people and they say, you know, you don't have the grades, I would say just go ahead and apply anyway. Just see if you can get in, and if you can get in, great, excellent. And if you can't, like I said, either go the associate's degree, which I think is the best way to go, because like I said, most of the hospitals you work at are going to pay for your bachelor's, but everybody doesn't go into the hospital. So so either going to associates or going to the bachelor's, which I guess is the only other option after that. So yeah, so that would have been my first choice, would have been to be an accelerated BSN. But yeah, just and really just in general, because I think I said this in one of my other videos, that I called so many different nursing schools and talked to them, and the minute that they saw my GPA, they were like, ma'am, you are not going to get into our nursing school program because your grades suck. And obviously I did. I got into a great program, and I think I'm a great nurse. You know, if you don't think it, then who will? You know, sometimes you got to big yourself up. So that's what I'm saying. Like, even if you talk to people and they say, oh, your grades aren't that good, like, don't even bother with applying, because they will, especially, you know, and I'm sorry if you're Caucasian watching this, especially if they feel like you black. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. I really feel like sometimes they'll really discourage you. Oh, that might be too real to say. I probably shouldn't have said that. But it's the truth. They will, and sometimes it doesn't even matter what the color of your skin. They just may discourage you because, like I said, they may not think you're good enough because you have a sucky GPA, so they may think you're dumb. But just apply anyway. Go for it. The sky is the limit, okay? So since this video is already 16 minutes, I'm going to shoot another video and answering this last question. So thank you all for watching. Once again, if you all have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section and I will answer it. And thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.